Welcome back. If you've been here before, if you've not, good to see you. My name is Shelby. Um, I live in one of the affected areas of the storm. And I've been trying to post and share different stories from the storm, different people who are helping, and just some updates from our area. Um, I at the beginning of the storm, there was so many like TikTokers and YouTubers that came into our area and they posted so much. And then they left and it kind of just went quiet. And all of us were like, wait a second, like there's no more information coming out of our areas. And I realized maybe we should start our own thing. So me and my friend, we started this by just going live once and kind of talking about our area. And then I do this for work. I do podcasts and live shows for work. And so I was like, I'll just keep interviewing people in our area, sharing information that I have, and hopefully it'll be helpful in some sort of way. And the funny thing is that I didn't realize how little it was being talked about. So my sister doesn't live in this area, and her and I talk almost every single day. And it wasn't until I started posting consistently that she started to really understand what was going on in our area and the help that we still needed. So I brought her today to talk with us because she has jumped in completely to helping. And we just kind of are going to talk about our experience, my experience, her experience being out of the area, and now her experience is being like a major help, but not being physically here. So this is my sister Alyssa.
Hello. I'm so excited.
I know this is fun. We Marco Polo every single day, and I was like, well, why don't we just talk about it? Because now at this point you're fully invested.
Yeah.
So will you kind of like tell the world how that happened? Like
Yeah.
you coming full force into helping.
So it's been awesome. It's been hard in emotional ways, but like Shelby said, we visit a lot, and Shelby kind of expressed that she was emotionally getting exhausted. And as a big sister, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me know if there's anything I can do. But I'm across the country. So I saw Shelby post that she needed to put some Amazon wish lists together for some people. And that's something that I can do from across the country. So I said, hey, I can help, send me some lists. And she sent me this spreadsheet of over 200 families that needed us to basically shop for them because they don't have access or they don't have the skills to put lists together. And that was my first little peek into holy cow, like this is not what I thought it was. And then just reading through some of the stories on the list and just some of the Christmas items that they were asking for that were not at all what I was expecting from, like, I thought I was doing like a Secret Santa type thing, but it was stuff like socks and underwear and cleaning supplies. So that was my first like overwhelmed moment that I was getting a little taste right then of really what's going on over there. So I got a bunch of friends together. We did a Christmas party at my husband's office. We had soup and Christmas music, and we had a group. I think there ended up being almost 20 people that came and went and helped us put these lists together. And all of them had the exact same experience where they came in expecting one thing. And as soon as they sat down, like we had people just bawling. It was this huge ball fest. Like we helped each other be happy, and like it ended up being a really good feeling in the room. But I could just see the emotional like weight that people over there have carried that we had no idea was even there. And everybody that came in was just shocked at what's being asked for over there. And a lot of these people aren't asking for exactly what they need. So you kind of have to read between the lines. And as we started really understanding the situation, like everybody's just shocked that this is still where everybody's at. And but the cool thing about that is as we all walked out with stuff that we could do from over here in Utah, where it's like, oh, this isn't just a oh, I can't fly to Tennessee type situation, we can actually do something. So since
Yeah.
then, we've been finding families to help sponsor families and help, just get a few things. And I think it's really helped people just kind of come together and just remember that these are people and we're people and people can help each other. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And that's what's been
it's
like the
wild.
cool, what's been really cool about the internet. Like, I'm like, man, like social media, like whatever. We don't, it's hard to really put a lot of weight into like what you see online. But in this situation, it was like, no, like this is our way to communicate. This is our way to get funds and help from because like in this area, it's like not only are the people who have been affected, like as in their whole house or things like that, but then you've got like most people are kin, so like everybody is trying to help, but they're all here in a lot of situations where it's like families, like entire families are trying to pitch in and help, but they are running out of resources. I mean, like I personally would not be able to be helping in any capacity at this point without funds from other people outside of our area, because it's just like we personally had a huge home repair that we had to do because of the storm, and pretty much everybody is impacted in some way, and so it's been incredible to have the social media piece of this where we're able to get a little bit of not only like monetary support, but just like people like cheering for us. Like I have a couple of friends on Instagram who just like they've donated what they can, and now they just tell me like good luck and help like how you can, and just like kind of cheering
Yeah.
me on. And that does a lot. That does a lot because all of
Yeah.
us here are just so freaking tired that when we get like a little bit of outside support, like it's like, okay, it's not that nobody cares. It's not that, um, you know, people still care. And that was what was huge about like having you jump in when you did, because it got to a point where I was well, like this sucks and I don't know what else we can do about it. And then when you jumped in, it was like, oh, there's still good people wanting to help, and like there's still momentum here and can be. So I appreciate that more than you know.
Was just gonna say that I think that social media is so good because it does connect people. Um, but I think the flip side of that and the hard part about social media is that sometimes it feels so overwhelming, and
Yeah.
there's so like stories and some of these images, and
Mm.
sometimes it can be paralyzing and you feel like you can't do anything. And and when I first started, Sean was just like, what's your plan? You're gonna save Appalachia? I'm like, no, but I'm damn well gonna try. Like, but I think just like for me, just taking the moment to like stop and can't go build a house. I can't like there's so much that I can't do, but I can buy laundry detergent
Mhm.
and I can buy Clorox wipes and like I can send a kid a Christmas toy. And I think like just being able to do those little things, like just I don't know, it was a shift in my thought where it's like, wow, that crazy thing happened. There's nothing I can do. We're thinking about you to like, no, there's something I can do, and it's not going to be that it's not going to be grand, but it's going to do something. So
I think we need t-shirts that say something about saving Appalachia, because I have also gotten that from my husband. He say like, you gonna save everyone? And I'm like, no, but I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna try. So I
yep.
know. Tell us about like what your experience was immediately after the storm. Like what did that feel like not being in this area?
Oh, well, so what was wild is like, I don't know if you want to post this, but like I went to bed that night worried about Jared, who lives in Alabama. Like So I went to bed that night like, oh, I hope Jared's okay. And Jared's like texting me, nope, like we're all ready to go. Like we've been prepping. I'm like, sweet, awesome. And then I woke up in the morning and it was like, wait, Shelby, like, how did that happen? And I think just like in my mind, it was like, oh, the storm turned, so it must have not been as bad. And like you saw news articles that were like, hey, like flooding, major flooding. And I don't know, just out here, I've never experienced a hurricane before. And it seems like everybody that lives in usual hurricane affected areas, they have a plan and they have what they do. And like you guys lived in North Carolina, like on the
Mhm.
coast,
Yeah.
and had hurricane warnings. And
Yeah.
we would always get pictures of you guys like wearing snorkels and like, here we go. Like it was like when we get snow warnings out here, like we know
Yeah.
how to handle it and it's fine. And so like I just kind of had assumed that it was that way. And there wasn't a lot, like we saw a lot of we're sending out this help and this help. And so it just kind of felt like it was taken care of. And then the hurricane hit in Florida. And so that kind of took a lot of
Mhm.
the attention, rightfully so. Like they were hit by a storm too.
Mhm.
But then we never heard about you guys again. And so um, I just kind of assumed that it was all fine until I kind of started seeing more of what you were doing and then started to kind of, I think the thing that's so hard for us out here is understanding the Appalachian mountain range
Yeah.
because we do
Yeah.
mountains, like we know mountains, but
Mhm.
your mountains are so different. And so trying to understand not only the culture, but like the family histories of
Mhm.
these people that have just lived here for ever and ever. And like just the more I'm understanding about the lay of the land and why it's so hard, like it's so hard to get certain supplies to certain areas. So even though we're seeing awesome stuff being done in Asheville from the news out here, like I don't think that people understand. Like I'm so glad that they're getting the help that they need. Like there is so much that's happening and so much good that's happening, which is great. But there are still these smaller areas that are not getting any help and are like it's scary for these people because there's nothing. So I think that's what's so hard about out here is like just trying to understand the geography and like how it's just there are certain systems in place that
Yeah.
aren't necessarily helpful in this situation. So, and
Well,
that's
and I
I've got a lot of questions about
yeah, I think like the biggest difference, like even just from us like living on the coast of North Carolina and then living in the mountains, is that it's not just that the rain came and there was a lot of rain, right? It's that these rivers like dammed up and then they came down really fast. And like it's not just that they're because we're used to rain. Like the mountains are used to rain. Rain is not that crazy, but this much rain caused different like geographical phenomenas that happened. And there's one YouTuber that did a really good job explaining how like our rivers are all connected and like what happened. And it was really interesting because it was like even for us, it was like we're used to the rain. Like I remember the morning of like Gage is like, why are you being weird? Like it's fine. Um, and as it got more and more, my husband got more and more chill and calm, which is always a red flag in our home. If Gabe is calm and he's like if he's sweet, and then I know like, oh, things are getting
that's when you
things
know.
are a little bit concerning if he's like, "Oh, it's all good. It's fine." Like versus when I was a little worried and he was like, "What is going on?" Anyways, so and it was just crazy because we just didn't have information even about like what was happening even a county over or even down the road. Like I was explaining to you how hard and scary that must have been for people whose rivers were overflowing because like I was explaining to you, there's a river right here for me, but there's also a river right here for me. And then
Mhm.
there's the mountains right here for me. And these mountains aren't like, you can't just go climbing up the mountains. Like they're thick with like wild roses and mountain laurel and things like that. That's not easy to climb through. So it's like if this river had overflown and I walked that way, that river could have been overflowing and I should have walked this way, but this way is not the easy way to get out of it. And so that's why, like, when these flood warnings go off on our phone, what we did was just stay. And
Yeah.
how easily that could have been us, because it's like, where am I supposed to go? Towards that big river?
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna
Well,
do that.
and
Where am I supposed to go? Up the mountain and leave
yeah.
my house and my car and everything? Like, that don't make sense. So we just stayed.
Yeah. Which, like, when you explained that to me and you explained, like, because we get, cold winter warning, and they do it by county, cold
Yeah.
extreme winter warning for Cache County. And so you bring your pets inside and you make sure things aren't going to freeze, like, and we just have our routine. But when you explained, like, the flash flood warning and it's listing off these counties, like, it doesn't do you any good to evacuate if you're going to go from a shelter, your home that should be safer, to get in a car to go drive, and hopefully you're headed in the right direction and you're not headed towards something worse. Like, I think that's just another example of not understanding the lay of the land. And, like, not that anybody, like, wants to blame flood victims at all, but I've heard people ask, like, how come people didn't evacuate?
Yeah.
Because in Florida, people evacuate. And it's like, how come people didn't evacuate? It's like, because they didn't know.
Where?
Yeah, go where? Like, there's nowhere to go. And, like, I don't know. It's just such, I think that's what's so hard, is it's such a different experience than any other hurricane that
Yeah.
has happened recently. And so I don't know, it's just interesting. And it's not talked about much because, and I think part of that is just that the news people out here don't know what Appalachia's like. Like, so they're reporting what they can, but really until you're,
Even here, it's like, I feel like the news channels here, it's like, well, like, we reported on it. Like, it just feels like we forget sometimes that these bigger organizations are just made up of humans who also don't have all the information. And
well, and
it's
big organizations have systems in place, and they have to have systems in place because they're big organizations. And that's what, when people are like, well, what about this organization or this organization? Like, they're doing their best, but right now you've got people that are cold, that need food, like, and so, like, for me, I'm not a political person. I can't get into that stuff. I'm just not that person. But to me, it's like, okay, the organizations are going to do what they're going to do. But if I can do something, like, we need to have people helping people again. Like,
yeah.
And that's been the cool thing about watching all of this. Like, we finished those lists on Friday night, and the owner of the organization asked me to help fill families. And by Monday morning, we had like 40 families left on the list. And that was super cool to me, to just be like, okay, here's the people coming for the people. Like, and that's just, it's that Mr. Rogers quote where it's like, you look for the helpers. And it's like, okay, there are helpers, like, just out here we didn't know. And so it's starting to get talked about more out here. And I mean, at church on Sunday, I had so many people coming up and just giving me cash, just asking to help out there. And when you talk about how, like, people in your area, like the South, man, that's the other thing that I'm learning, is just the grit of the South, man. They will take care of their own. And, like, I've told you before, I just want to go hug people, because it's just this, like, okay, like, we got this, we'll take care of it. We're not going to whine about it. Like, we're going to handle this. But in this case, it's going to be so long that you're running out of resources there. But there's resources out here and people that want to help, but they just don't know, and they don't know how to help. So I'm hoping that's what we can continue to do. Like, we've done a lot with the Christmas list right now. That's kind of been where our focus is. But I'm really hoping that after Christmas, and it's been awesome how many people are like, okay, I don't want this to end with Christmas. Like, how can I help after Christmas? It's like, okay, so I've got my little Facebook page going, and that's what I'm hoping that we can do, is just like, hey guys, we can't we can't do a lot to
We can't save all of Appalachia, but we
can't
can
save
save
all of
some.
Appalachia. We can save a little bit. So we're going to save a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but,
And I appreciate that.
yeah. So I don't know. It's been a very humbling experience. I have bawled more than I have in a long time, just because you just like, these are people, like
Yeah.
they're real people, and you hear these stories and you read them over and over again, and you've had to warn me, hey, set a time limit, because you do just like get sucked in, and then it's like, okay, like you finish this huge thing, it's like, okay, I got to go grocery shopping for my family, and it's like, how do I go grocery shopping right now? Like, I want to just send it all to Appalachia. Like, but I don't know. It's been such a humbling experience, but I'm grateful that you've let me in a little bit. And it's been fun just like working with you as siblings again. And we might not save all of Appalachia, but we're going to do a little bit. And
Yeah.
it's
Well,
been amazing.
yeah, and I have felt this feeling. Me and Jess, when we came down from Roan Mountain that first day, we were like in shock, I guess is what it was. Like we were in shock and like together, like we're like, oh my gosh, like this feels like when Drew and Gage deployed. Like this feels very
Oh, yeah.
similar. And then with me and you, like once I finally like brought you into all of it, we had that same like, oh my gosh, this feels like what like NICU, or like it
Yeah.
feels like it feels like those big traumatic things. And I think it's taken me a second to realize how traumatic this was, because I think like for myself, I'm like, I'm fine. Like my home's fine, my car's fine, my kids are fine. Like I didn't experience any trauma, but it keeps popping up where I'm like having those feelings, and I'm like, oh, like maybe this is like a huge shared trauma in this region. And honestly, anybody who's willing to look at it the way that you have and like actually start to read and understand even outside of the area is like feeling those feelings too. And I don't know what, I'm sure there's some psychological word for whatever it is we're going through. But I appreciate that you have, and literally anybody else who has been just brave enough to look at this for what it is. Like, I can't thank you enough for being brave enough to look at what a lot of us don't want to have to look at, like have to feel, because it's just a lot of feelings over a long time. But we can do a little bit. We can't do all the things, we can do a little bit. And that's
what did you say the other day? We can't be Superwoman, but we can be
Emma shared that with me. We can't be Superwoman, but we can be kind of helpful woman. So
please do that.
That's what we're going for. Yeah.
No,
so
it's been so cool watching everybody just kind of rally. And that's where my focus has just kind of stayed, is it's like, okay, like there's a lot that is going on, and you can get into big, long conversations about that. But at the end of the day, it's people that need food, and it's people that are responding and getting people what they need. And that's just cool to see. So, yep.
Okay.
People are people. So.
All right. Thanks, Sissa. I appreciate you being on here. I love you. If anybody who's listening wants to follow the what Alyssa is doing, this is her Facebook page, and then I'm going to put an email at the end that you can email if you would like to be a part of the like matching for Christmas. But honestly, probably moving forward, Alyssa's going to have some sort of like Amazon wish list that we can just purchase a little bit of things to help.
You've got a little extra in your grocery budget or something like that, and you can pop on and just grab a few extra things, because little bit goes a long way if we all do a little bit. So,
okay.
Hey, thank you. Bye.